Good morning, everyone. This is Father Nate, missionary priest in Italy, and thanks for joining us today, February 12th, on No Greater Delight, our podcast on Marian feasts and Marian meditations. Well, again, today we have a number of Marian feasts throughout the world. Today, there's a lot of feasts in Italy, probably because of the great earthquakes in 1854 around this time. I know we had mentioned those a couple days ago. And so today, we'll start off with Madonna Immacolata in Luzzi, Cosenza, Calabria in Italy, right? Now, again, the Immaculate Virgin, as this would be the Immaculate Madonna, was already venerated in Cosenza for her help during the 1656 plague and the 1693 earthquake, right? And for that reason, the Capuchin monk Antonio Collice carved a wooden statue of her in 1718. So after the earthquake of February 12th, 1854, she received the title of Protectress and Patroness of Luzzi. During the centennial, so that's 1954, the statue was canonically crowned. The celebration begins on this day, which is she was canonically crowned on November 17th, but her feast begins with a mass and then a procession, and then, after reading a decree verifying her miraculous assistance, the mayor hands candles to the parish pastor. We also have in Italy, if you recall, of those Italian celebrations because of Our Lady's protection during earthquake. This also explains the devotion to Madonna della Pecorella in Pedace, Cosenza, Calabria, Italy. Again, 1854 earthquake. Madonna del Pilerio in Cosenza, Calabria, Italy. Same reason. Also Santa Maria della Sera, Montalto Ufuggo, Cosenza. Right? Thanksgiving to Mary for her protection. And also we celebrate, now this one is not necessarily related to an earthquake, but Madonna del Conche di San Costanzo in Brescia, Lombardia in Italy. So this has to do with an apparition that took place in 1080, right? So Saint Costanzo, if I recall, was a soldier, and he had a big conversion. He also had a great love for Our Lady of Mercy, whom he accredited for his conversion. And so he decided that he wanted to build a church next to a small convent of sisters, right? And so he needed to choose the place, and so he lifted his eyes to heaven, and he saw Our Lady with the child Jesus in her arms, up, given a certain height, right? Like elevated, obviously he's looking up, so she's above him. And with her maternal smile, she indicated to him the place to build the church, right? And he said there couldn't have been a clearer signal of the divine will. So in that place, he constructed the church as a proof of his conversion and of his love for Our Lady. But we're not done yet, because there's even more feasts. So we said there's a whole bunch of feasts in Italy, but also in France, right? For instance, they celebrate Notre Dame in Argentré de Plessis in Brittany, France. The rebuilt church was blessed on this day in 1779. There's also Sainte Marie in Auch, Gueuze, the Midi-Pyrenees in France. This cathedral church was dedicated in 1121 and then apparently rededicated in 1548. We also celebrate Nostra Senora del Monserrate in Puerto Rico. The statue was crowned on this day in 1995. If you head to Russia, which maybe you wouldn't do now, they recall Our Lady of Wherein and the Virgin of Mount Athos, both in Moscow. Not a whole lot of information on them. And also, our friend, the Abbot Orsini, says that today is the feast of Notre Dame de Argenteuil, the church on the Seine River near Paris, France, sometimes said to have been built by Clovis I in the year 101, although they say Clovis I actually reigned from 481 to 511. So, be that as it may, that's what we're celebrating today, February 12th, in the Marian world. For today's Marian meditation, taken from the book by Father Ildefonso Villar, we continue with the meditations on the Magnificat. And today we start meditation 37 with this phrase: He has put down the mighty from their seat and exalted the lowly. And just as in the previous verse, Our Lady states how God behaves with the proud of mind and heart, so in like manner she now tells us how that pride is manifested by way of vanity, haughtiness, craving for power, ambition, reluctance to obey. This is why obedience is the inseparable sister of humility. Both agree in this spirit of submission and simplicity, which is so pleasing to God. How many of these mighty ones were there on earth?
Through an inspiration from heaven, Our Lady could see them in their places, issuing orders to their kneeling servants and slaves as if they were gods. But now listen to the forceful expression of Mary. God will put down those mighty men from their seat of vanity, and will put them aside with contempt. How unexpected do these hard expressions sound on the sweet and compassionate lips of Mary. But the fact is that we cannot fathom the hatred that God has for pride. God does not deign to glance on the hollow vanities of this earth. When God is looking for a mother, he does not seek her among the proud of the earth, but among the humble. When he is born in Bethlehem, he sends his angels to announce the great tidings to simple shepherds. He disregards the proud and the mighty. How terrible must be God's contempt! How frightful his punishments, which merit the forcible words of Mary. Examine whether you also have any such worldly spirit, no matter in how small a degree. Look at your soul, and by your readiness to obey, from the degree of your submission and humility, gauge your abhorrence for pride and vanity. Thus you will see, if you deserve or not, the great reward that Mary announces for the humble. For them, exaltation, glorification, a lofty throne in heaven. Check and compare these two expressions of Mary, the one threatening with the punishment of contempt the proud ones of earth, the other, glorification for the humble and simple. For today's reading from The Admirable Heart of Mary by St. John Eudes, we start with Part 5, which is another section, although it's basically the same topic. Further divine perfections mirrored in the Admirable Heart of Mary. It's almost like an afterthought, where we have further divine perfections, additional ones, that we see reflected in Mary's heart. So for this first chapter, entitled The Mercy of God Mirrored in the Admirable Heart of Mary, we'll see in a particular way how Mary's heart reflects God's mercy. Divine mercy is a perfection directed towards the miseries of creatures, tending to alleviate them and even to free them from created things when such a liberation enters into the designs of divine providence, which does all things with measure, number, and weight. It's from the Book of Wisdom 11:21. This adorable mercy extends, like goodness itself, to all God's works. His tender mercies are all over his works. That's Psalm 144, verse 9. God's mercy overshadows the works of nature, the works of grace, and the works of glory. Mercy supervises the works of nature, because God has created out of nothing all things contained in the natural order. It overshadows the works of grace, because man had fallen into the horrible abyss, and divine mercy not only drew him from its depths, but re-established man in a state of grace so godlike and noble, that from being a member of Satan, which he was by his crime, he became a member of Jesus Christ. God's mercy permeates the works of glory, because God was not content simply to raise man to the supernatural and sublime state of Christian grace, making him thus a partaker of the divine nature. The Creator further designed to withdraw man from the baseness, miseries, imperfections, and perils which surround him here below, and to elevate him to heaven, even to the throne of God, to grant participation in his everlasting glory and the enjoyment of his eternal happiness. God is willed to share all his possessions with man, his creature. Among the effects of divine mercy, we must enumerate three principal realities, which in turn embody numberless effects. The first is the incarnation of the God-man. The second, his admirable body, his mystical body, namely the Holy Church. The third is the mother of the God-man, namely the Most Blessed Virgin Mary. These constitute three admirable masterpieces of divine mercy. In order to save us from the deepest possible abyss of misery and malediction, and to raise us up to the highest conceivable degree of happiness and grandeur, God willed that his divine Son should become man, mortal and capable of suffering like ourselves, that he should descend to earth to abide and converse with us, and teach us a heavenly and divine doctrine by his own sacred lips. God willed his Son to give us a most excellent and holy law, and to teach us to observe it by his own divine example. God willed that his only begotten Son should suffer and perform great miracles for our sake while in this world, that he should die on the cross, be buried, rise again the third day, and remain 40 days longer on earth, that he should found a church, establish therein a sublime priesthood, an admirable sacrifice, and 7 divine sacraments, that, having ascended into heaven, he should send his Holy Spirit to govern his church, to rule her in all things, and to abide with her forever.
Hello, and we hope that you enjoyed listening to our Marian podcast. In the spirit of Saint Bernard of Clairvaux, we say to you that there is no greater delight than to spread the devotion of Our Lady. We hope you share these sentiments and encourage you greatly to share with a loved one. Know that you are always in our prayers, and we ask that you keep us in yours. God bless.